That dude drunk, you know.
Was he planting the seed en route to the ring for his biggest fight ever?
On the level of Conor McGregor, let's be real, stop it. Don't ever compare.
Like, them getting together is not actually the dumbest idea that I've ever heard, and for that reason, it's still on the table, and if he took his walkout music out of coincidence or out of spite, either way, I'm into it.
Terence Crawford takes aim at Ilia Topuria, trolling the lightweight champ and questioning his next moves. It all started when Ilia Topuria shared a photo of himself with Terence Crawford on X and sparked debate among young fans, asking who would come out on top in a showdown. He captioned the image asking, "Who wins in a fight?" In a follow-up tweet, Ilia doubled down and confidently claimed he would put Terence Crawford to sleep with his first punch. He wrote, "I won't talk about what would happen between me and Crawford in an octagon, I'll talk about what would happen in a ring. I put him to sleep in the first contact." However, Terence Crawford dismissed Ilia Topuria's claims with laughter, suggesting that Topuria had been drinking heavily and joking that MMA fighters often overindulge. Crawford implied that Topuria must have been under the influence before posting his bold tweets.
From the UFC world, Ilia Topuria says that if you guys ever boxed, he would knock you out based on the first punch.
That dude drunk, you know. Hey, you know, a lot of MMA guys, they drink a lot, so he must have been on alcohol that day.
But Topuria responded sharply in a post on X. After Crawford dismissed his claims, mocking the boxing star for first calling him drunk and then stealing his entrance music. The MMA standout escalated the stakes by throwing down a public challenge, vowing to take on Crawford in the ring and teasing that he would even leave a round for Canelo Alvarez. Topuria wrote, "First he calls me drunk, then he walks out to my song? Crawford, whenever you want, I'll teach you how to dance that mariachi in the ring, and Canelo, I'll save you a round after him." However, Terence Crawford put Ilia in his place, making it clear that he had no idea why his walkout music was linked to Topuria. Crawford admitted he had not watched any of Topuria's fights and did not even know him, dismissing the MMA fighter publicly. He clarified that the photo Topuria posted was simply from a casual encounter, where Topuria approached him, downplaying any notion of rivalry.
I'm not worried about that guy at all. You know, it's crazy how, you know, things work, you know. I didn't even know who he was. When he seen me at the UFC, he came up and shook my hand and said, "What's up to me?" I didn't even know who he was, you know, but then I see him online talking about he had knocked me out in the first round and this and that and this. Well, if you want to fight me, you had the opportunity to tell me like, "Hey man, I want to fight you, what's up?"
Expanding on that point, Crawford doubled down, saying that he would have taken the opportunity to ask for a fight from Ilia when they met in person rather than being respectful and friendly. Crawford criticized Topuria for being fake, accusing him of hiding behind social media and failing to say anything where they were face-to-face, calling out the contrast between online bravado and real-time interaction.
Like, that's fake. You know, if I don't like somebody, if I want to fight them for whatever reason, I would have been like, "Hey, what's up, man? What you think about me and you fighting?" I'm not gonna go hide behind, you know, the keyboard and things like that, and then be like, "Oh, I knocked this dude out, this and that and this." I think that's fake.
Do you think he actually wants to fight you, or do you think, as the kids would say, he's just trying to clout chase?
Furthermore, Crawford commented that Ilia might step into the ring for the right payday, but he made it clear that there is no financial incentive in a fight with Topuria. He added that Topuria is not a big-name draw like Conor Benn, or who could generate serious revenue, making the matchup unlikely from a business standpoint.
He's not nowhere near on the level of Conor McGregor. Let's be real, stop it. Don't ever compare him to Conor. Conor was here. He's here. Like I said, I don't know this guy. I never seen this guy fight. And I watch a lot of MMA, you know what I mean? Maybe, you know what I mean, I'm slipping. Maybe he's a good fighter, you know what I mean? I don't know. But I honestly never seen this guy fight, for sure. You know, and I've seen Conor McGregor fight a lot of times.
Additionally, Michael Bisping weighed in by pointing out that any fighter can choose whichever song they want to walk out on, while also praising Ilia Topuria as a fantastic fighter. He noted that, like Crawford, Topuria has never tasted defeat, which makes the matchup an easy headline grabber. Michael Bisping compared the commercial appeal to crossover blockbusters like Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, calling it a recipe for major money given the clash between two stars from different sports.
So then Ilia Topuria comes out very offended, very annoyed, very very worked up. He says, first, Crawford calls me drunk, then he walks out to my song. As I say, I'm sorry, I've got to side with Crawford on this one. It's anyone's song. Whenever you want, I'll teach you how to dance that mariachi in the ring. And Canelo, I'll save you a round after him. So, of course, listen, we know Topuria is fantastic. He's got great power in the hands. I mean, the knockout that he had over several people, Alexander Volkanovski, of course, last time over Charles do Bronx Oliveira. He's undefeated. Terence Crawford is undefeated. You could say it's a match made in heaven, okay? And a recipe to make an absolute fortune. Two undefeated fighters from different sports. Of course, we've seen this before with Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor, and that made an absolute fortune. It was the money fight.
Bisping pointed out that if matchups like Jake Paul against Gervonta Davis or Jake Paul against Mike Tyson can take place and draw millions of viewers on Netflix, then Topuria versus Crawford is not such a crazy idea.
Is there a potential for this happening? Well, if Ilia Topuria continues to fight and he continues to win, and these two continue to talk then maybe, I mean, come on, let's be honest. Jake Paul's fighting Gervonta Davis. If that can happen, or him fighting Mike Tyson, if there's a world that we live in where that can go down and get watched by millions of people on Netflix, then Topuria versus Crawford isn't too crazy when you think about it.
At the same time, he stressed that Crawford has nothing left to prove in boxing, having enjoyed a stellar career, made millions, remained undefeated, and now at 37 years old, does not need to chase money fights he does not even view as lucrative.
Crawford need this? Absolutely not. I think his purse was somewhere around $50 million, what he got at the weekend. Of course, he's had a tremendous career. He's undefeated and he's 37 years old. He doesn't need to be chasing quote-unquote money fights that he doesn't even think is a money fight at all. He doesn't need that, and he probably wouldn't want to tarnish his legacy. Just like, and I'll use myself as an example, when Jake Paul offered me a fight a couple of years ago, I wasn't interested. I'd had a great career. I became the champion. I wasn't going to lower myself to fight Jake Paul. And that's probably what Crawford would be like. And of course, we're talking different parallels here. We're talking Terence Crawford, the best boxer of his generation, okay? And we're talking Ilia Topuria, one of the hottest properties in all of mixed martial arts. So you never know. You never know. Maybe it does happen.
However, Bisping admitted that if the fight were to happen, it could potentially draw strong numbers with both fan bases tuning in at the same time. He called the idea unbelievable, but noted that the real question is whether the promoters would actually make it happen.
But let's be honest, if it was to happen, it would make a lot of money. You know why? Because there will be two fan bases tuning in. And that's what happened with the money fight. Okay, you've got all the boxing fans, and then you've got all the MMA fans. And of course, you've got Dana White in the middle. Dana just did business with Terence Crawford. Ilia Topuria is under contract with the UFC. So it's not unbelievable to think of a world where this might happen. It's just, would they make this? Would Crawford lower himself? Would he want to do that? Would he want to step in the ring with somebody like that? You never know, because what else is there out there for him?
Commenting on the hype, Luke Thomas weighed in, saying that MMA fighters often make bold claims that rarely materialize. He acknowledged that while Ilia Topuria backs up his words inside the MMA cage, the call out to Terence Crawford appears to be all talk. Thomas added that fighters frequently make statements and gestures without substance, and at this point, Topuria's boxing challenge seems more silly than serious.
Ilia says lots of things, he says lots of things. And that's in the MMA sense, he says lots of things and then he actually does some of the more impressive versions of them. So, all right, fair play. But, brother, you've been here long enough, and I've been here long enough to see how many MMA champions have told us about the grandest things that they could pull off in the height of their excellence. And, I already had to live through, I had to live through the media cycle of Kamaru Usman calling out Canelo only for Canelo to eventually be a guest on his podcast. You know what I mean? Like, they just say things. And dude, it's just a silly fucking thing at this point.
In agreement with that sentiment, Denis Kuratov noted that MMA fans may not fully grasp Terence Crawford's skills and achievements the way the hardcore boxing fans do, highlighting the difference in perspective between the two audiences.
No, in all seriousness, there's going to be fans out there. Obviously, Topuria, one of the best strikers in the game. He touches you, you go out. They don't really understand Terence Crawford as much as maybe the more hardcore boxers out there.
Similarly, Ariel Helwani questioned the feasibility of a fight between Ilia Topuria and Terence Crawford, noting that the situation bears a striking resemblance to how the Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather matchup began, with just a few tweets and mentions sparking the conversation.
Will we ever see at 147 pounds Terence Crawford versus Ilia Topuria? Maybe at 154 pounds. This is how it starts, my friends. This is how it starts. This is how it started. A couple of tweets, Conor and Floyd, a couple of mentions.
To build on that, Ariel Helwani raised the question of whether Terence Crawford was deliberately sending a message to Ilia Topuria or planting the seed for a potential showdown by using Topuria's walkout song on his way to the ring.
Two guys were playing and I was like, I don't know who these guys are, but then I hear ay, 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 mi amor. Corazón. I'm like, wait a second. That's Ilia's song. That's Ilia's song. Was he trying to send a message? Was he planting the seed?
However, Chael Sonnen weighed in by praising Terence Crawford for walking out to the same song Ilia Topuria uses, saying he loved the moment he believed it was not meant to be provocative.
Should we talk about Terence Crawford walking out to Ilia Topuria's song? Now, I love this. I'm not sure this was provocative. I find myself believing Terence Crawford, and we love him, right? Terence used to wrestle. And Terence, according to the fellow boxers, is the only boxer that could go over to MMA and they would expect him to win. Like, the fellow boxers will say, yeah, you MMA guys, you could beat us all up. You know more about fighting. Except for Terence. Like, Terence is the feared and the respected boxer as far as being like a legit badass amongst fellow boxers. But there's something about this that makes us feel like we know him, like he is one of ours.
However, Sonnen went further, expressing his admiration for Crawford's skills and stating that Crawford is probably the only boxer who could actually hold his own inside the UFC.
Even though he represents boxing, right? And so there's something just cool about Crawford. There's something that feels regular guy about Crawford. Canelo feels like a star. He might be a very cool guy, but he feels like a star. He feels like he's not. He feels like if we invited him over, we would not expect him to come. He's too big. He's too Mr. Fancy. Crawford would probably roll in and bring a pizza with him, right? It's how he feels. So Crawford gets called out by Ilia. Now, we see this all the time. This an MMA guy going after a boxer will just never end. And frankly, Conor getting the actual fight with Mayweather made it so it can't ever end.
Whereas Conor Burks argued that there's no way Terence Crawford was unaware the song he used belonged to Ilia Topuria. He pointed out that with that level of production involved and a live band being hired, it is impossible that not a single person knew about the tension between the two. Burks insisted there's no chance Crawford was not informed about the connection at some point.
Even if he didn't know to begin with, there's no chance with all the production and everything that had to go into that, hiring the band, that not one person, knowing the beef and everything, wasn't like, oh, this is Ilia's song. You're doing this on purpose? And he was like, wait, what? There's no chance this was not mentioned to him at some point.
However, Eric Jackman countered by suggesting that Terence Crawford is so singularly focused on his fights that it is highly unlikely he knew or even cared that the song he used was Ilia Topuria's walkout track.
The only thing I might say
is
Terence Crawford seems like a very singularly focused man. I don't think he even knows or cares what Ilia Topuria's walkout song is. That's my only piece of evidence that I submit for. I don't think he cares what Ilia walks out to. But
bro, he didn't have the aux and he just threw on his iPod and just hit the button. There was production value there. This was ideas. This was discussions with production teams. There's no chance no one was just like, oh, you know, that's Ilia's like famous walkout song. Like, you play that, especially for MMA fans. Like, you play that and it's immediately that's Ilia Topuria. There's no chance not one person mentioned.
I agree with this part. My only thing I will respond with is this is a very we are MMA centric thing. I don't think
someone mentioned it to him.
I don't know.
Still, Chael Sonnen believes that a matchup between Ilia Topuria and Terence Crawford is not completely off the table. He pointed out that Dana White initially resisted the idea of Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather too, so suggesting that while a Topuria-Crawford fight may not happen soon, it could still become a reality in the future.
Because I will look at guys that go for call-outs or waste time on matches that they can't get. I'm not positive that's what's happening here. I'm not ready to tell you that Ilia could get this fight. I do not imagine that at all Dana would entertain this idea, but Dana White did not entertain Conor versus Floyd until he did. That was very unique, and it wasn't the UFC champion against a guy that was going for 50-0. I realize that's how it was presented to you. It was the greatest mouthpiece in MMA with the greatest mouthpiece in boxing. That is what got that fight to happen. And Ilia's not there.
In fact, Sonnen added that if Terence Crawford is considering retirement, a fight with Ilia Topuria would not be a bad way to go out. He emphasized that the matchup is still on the table and said that whether Crawford used Topuria's walkout music by coincidence or on purpose, he is fully behind the idea.
I think that Bud Crawford is in one interesting situation, and this was called to your attention by a very famous trainer, and the trainer said, I think that Crawford should retire. I don't think he's got any other opponents, and I think that he needs to retire. So if we're talking about retirement by some boxing experts, and we're talking about Bud and Ilia, by Bud and Ilia, like them getting together is not actually the dumbest idea that I've ever heard. And for that reason, it's still on the table. And if he took his walkout music out of coincidence or out of spite, either way, I'm into it.
Adding to the analysis, Luke Thomas weighed in, saying that if the fight actually happened, it likely won't last longer than Terence Crawford wanted it to. He highlighted Crawford's dominance in unifying division titles and recalled how Errol Spence entered their bout as a pound-for-pound fighter who had never been knocked down.
I cannot imagine he would last any longer than Terence wanted him to. Terence has been really, really good. He's had really good wins. He was a unified champion many, many years ago. Moved up, and obviously he unified up at 47, and he's trying to do it here at 68. I don't know if he will, but I guess we'll see. But my story and understanding how good he was is a little bit different. Before Errol Spence fought Bud Crawford, he was on the pound-for-pound list. He, like Canelo, had never been knocked down. He was a southpaw with a hammer jab. He was physically huge, and he would get in everyone's face, and he would demolish them.
Thomas emphasized that despite Spence's reputation, Crawford delivered one of the best performances in combat sports history and defeated Spence, so defeating Ilia is not a big task for Crawford.
But man, the tape on Errol is like so convincing, and then Bud went in there and turned in terms of something I've seen with my own eyes, the best combat sports performance of my life. But I mean, abused him, knocked him down multiple times, took no punishment, fought out of southpaw to trick him, but would switch to a degree. I mean, obliterated this guy to it's just unfathomable. Like, he hasn't fought since, and he was undefeated and had never been knocked down and was a marauder. Okay.
But even so, Ilia Topuria has had his sights set on Terence Crawford long before recent exchanges, revealing that he has always wanted to step into a boxing ring. He insisted that regardless of his UFC status, he still wants a boxing bout while holding the lightweight championship. Topuria argued that if Conor McGregor could make the transition, he should be allowed the same opportunity.
I think I have 5. It doesn't matter. Even I still have fights in the UFC. You always can ask them to let you go to the boxing. Did it with Conor. Why not with me? I would love to go to boxing. I would love to go against the winner of Canelo and Crawford, Canelo, because he was my idol. There's always respect for everyone, but I have to try. Why not? I feel that I can do it. I can do it. If they want to give me the opportunity directly, why not? I want to discover something new. We're going to do it. Now is the best time. Maybe the first one to get a world title in boxing. Let's go Turkish. This guy, how's his name? The Turkish?
Turkey or whatever?
Turkey, yeah.
On top of that, Topuria also claimed that given just 6 months to prepare exclusively for boxing, he could compete with anyone. He emphasized that with half a year of focused boxing training, without grappling, wrestling, or any other martial arts distractions, he would be ready to take on any opponent.
I prepare for 6 months. Like, only boxing. I don't do anything about wrestling, about, I don't know, knees, elbows, grappling, whatever. Only boxing, bro, put me whoever you want in front of me. Whoever. whoever.
In the end, Luke emphasized that Terence Crawford easily dominated both Errol Spence and Canelo Alvarez, and suggested that Ilia Topuria trying to hang with Crawford would not only be comical, but would likely result in him being thoroughly outclassed.
The concept that an MMA fighter, even a good one like Ilia Topuria, could even hang on the level of Spence is comical. But even if you could, look what Bud did to him. He changed his life. He effectively retired him. And he was a pound for pound guy. But Crawford would abuse Topuria.
Ultimately, Ilia Topuria's challenge has sparked buzz, but the reality is Crawford has already conquered boxing's elite in Spence and Canelo, making a matchup with the UFC star more spectacle than sport. Still, as history has shown, money and hype can blur those lines, and while unlikely, Crawford Topuria has already captured the imagination of fight fans. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video with more exciting updates.